Hi, I am and today I have with me the founder of Reverie Language Technologies, Arvind Pani.
Hello.
So we'll get to know more about Reverie Language Technologies as we talk to Arvind. So good to be with you in your office, Arvind.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Right. So why don't you tell us, what your startup is all about?
Yeah, so we are focusing on providing language technologies or products on digital platforms. So what I mean by digital platforms is something like a mobile phone or a tablet or set-top boxes or any kind of handheld device. So today we see that most of these devices support the Latin languages very well. For example, English or Spanish, German, French. But when you come to complex languages like South Asian languages, including the Indian languages, the Perso-Arabic languages, the support is not that good on these devices. So what I mean by support is that whether you'll be able to consume text in your chosen language, whether you'll be able to type in that language. So these are the basic support. We don't even think twice before consuming text in English or typing an email or an SMS in English. But if you want to do that in one of these complex languages, it is very tough, and we are bridging this gap through our products.
Great. So, but how did you get started with this idea?
Well, my co-founders have a very strong background in this particular domain, and this was around. I have been pursuing with one of my co-founders, who coincidentally is also my brother, since 2001. That Indian languages on mobile phones is something that is very important. So that is how the idea started, and probably 2001 was not the right time because mobile phones were pretty expensive, and the people who would afford that would definitely be conversant in English. So we just parked that idea, and around 2009, 2010, we really thought that mobile phone had become affordable and it was exploding in the Indian market, and same was the case in other emerging markets. So just having support for English on these devices was a challenge. We saw this gap. So that's the gap we saw manifesting quite hugely in a country like India around 2009, 2010 time, and we thought it was the right time for us to focus on providing language. So initially we started with Indian languages with the thought of supporting Indian languages. Then we figured out that most of the emerging countries have this kind of a problem, and we have expanded our scope to support most of the complex languages. So today we support 32 languages of the world, and in another 1.5 to 2 years we want to support all the 50 popular languages of the world through our production technologies.
Okay. So, see, my question is that where is the real market need for this? Because India as a country and most of the Indians have this attitude that they want to learn English. And if you consider cases abroad, probably it's abroad it's like English is almost like a universal language now. So where is the market need for this kind of product?
Okay. So this is one of the perceptions, in my opinion, that people really want to learn English, and that is why local languages are not required. But that's not reality. So let's try to draw an analogy from some other media. Let's take the case of newspapers in India. So there are over 100 million circulations annually of newspapers in India. Now, out of those 100 million, only about 8% is in English. The rest, everything, 92% is in local languages. And India is one of the countries where newspaper circulation is still increasing year on year. Right? That's case number one. If we also take the case of television, now most of the channels that you see, take the case of Star TV. Star TV, when they came into India, they started with all English channels. It was a huge failure. And then they started focusing on local languages, India specific local and then they have succeeded.
Okay.
So that's case number two. The third case that we can directly derive is from a market like China.
Okay.
It's very similar in terms of English literacy. So in India, the English literacy is less than 10%, right? Even aggressive is less than 10%. In China, it's around the same range, maybe even less than what it is in India. Then the mobile phone penetration. Now, today we are talking about 850 million to 900 million mobile phone subscriber base in India. Similar subscriber base in China as well. But the revenue that is generated from text-related value-added services in China today is at least 10 times bigger than what Indian telecom operators are generating from text-related value-added services. So, English, like you mentioned, is an aspirational language for majority of the people who do not know English. But for regular consumption, it is their local language. Because we do speak language, even if we take our case, we do speak our English for our business communication. But when we go back home, we communicate in our local language. So that's the case with Reverie.
Right. So what is the business model here with Reverie and how it's making money out of it?
So right now our business model is primarily B2B, and there are two approaches that we have taken in this.
Okay.
One is how do we target the new mobile phones that get to the market, and the second one is the mobile phones which are already existing in the market today. So in the new mobile space, we focus on the device manufacturers, the OEMs, to embed our solution at the time of manufacturing of the phone.
Right.
And the phones that are already in the market, we try to reach to those phones through the application development community. So we provide solutions that can be embedded into applications which are supposed to be downloaded onto the phones. We have a phone that does not have local language support. And let's assume that you are downloading a Facebook application and you want to use it in your local language. So we have plugins that can go inside the Facebook application or similar third-party application and enable your application to support local languages, irrespective of the fact that whether the language is supported on the phone or not.
Okay, but there are a couple of other guys who are doing a similar thing, right? Like QuillPad is also there. So how are you different from these guys, QuillPad and related?
Yeah. So one of the major differences that we have compared to our competition is we provide complete solution for languages. Now, if we take the case of QuillPad or similar companies, where you have an application and you use it to type, right? Now, to be able to type, there needs to be a support to display the text that you are typing on the phone, which means you require the necessary fonts, the ability to render those fonts, right? So if those are not there on the devices, then an application like that will be useless. So we not just provide typing solutions, we also provide font rendering. So we have a complete package using which you can have multiple language support. So there are three areas mainly that we have identified as our focus. One is for text consumption. That means how the text is displayed on the screens. The second one is for user-generated content, text typing an email or SMS or any kind of engaging social media activity. That. And the third one is processing the content. That means irrespective of the source language of the content, the target language can be chosen by the consumer. Right? So there we have things like translation, transliteration, those kind of stuff.
Right. And so now getting back to the OEM approach that you've taken compared to the consumer approach, which a couple of other bigger players took a few years back and couldn't, be game changers in that sector. So my question is that was that OEM approach a choice from day one, or did you also experiment initially by taking a consumer approach and then saw where it was going and then decided to get back to OEM? How was that part
OEM approach was our preferred choice from day one.
Okay.
The reason for that is unless the language is supported at the native level, when the device is getting manufactured, all the applications on the phone can never be enabled for multilingual support.
Okay.
So that's the reason why we have focused on OEM approach from day one.
Okay.
Now, apart from that, we have adopted the strategy of providing the plugins for applications to target some of the phones which are already available in the market.
Okay.
But predominantly, the OEM approach has been our focus from day one.
Alright. So now almost coming to the end of this talk, I would want to know that what have been your biggest challenge so far in building the business?
Now, when we talk about making the language support available on digital devices, there are many challenges, right? And focusing on one will not solve this problem. So I will elaborate a little bit on that. Now, when we talk about OEM, now we can't have majority of the phone support languages by focusing on just one OEM. There are multiple OEMs. Then there are brand owners in India who procure devices and white label devices and sell it under their brand. So we have to work with multiple OEMs, multiple brand owners at the OEM level. Now the second challenge is that, as I was mentioning, when you talk about Indian languages, you just can't focus how can I type in my local language as your only focus. There indeed are multiple challenges. There is a challenge in terms of text consumption. How can you help users seamlessly consume text in their local languages as easily as they are doing in English?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that is challenge number one. Challenge number two is how can you type as easily as you are doing in English? Challenge number two. Third is specifically in a country like India, you can't address the masses by focusing on just one or two languages.
Okay.
There are 22 official languages.
Right.
But even if we take the popular languages that can cater to majority of the population, we are talking about at least 11 to 12 languages. So these are the three major challenges that were there for us to see how we can work with multiple OEMs, how we can have the complete solution, end-to-end solution. That's one of our biggest USPs that none of our competitors have as of now. And the third, as I mentioned, is addressing the number of languages that we have.
Okay. Yeah. On that note, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much.